I'm going to go back to where I was really trying to give some kudos. It's humbling to be sitting here. It's also humbling to be thinking about being in this state. I love the state of Arkansas. I hope you do too. And it shouldn't get lost on any of us that there's been a lot of giants of industry that have come out of Arkansas. I've just been real fortunate to have worked for several of them. And I don't know if you talk about Sam Walton, or certainly a William Dillard, or a Jack, with Stevens founders, and seeing those things going on, and the list is big. Why do I draw back to that? It's amazing for me to kind of think about again the impact and influence that these companies have had around the world, changed the industry. So to fast forward, in something in your question that I am very proud of, and it's one of those things that it was unique to be able to be in like a Walmart. Certainly the size and scale of Walmart mattered, but retail and manufacturing industries probably could not have been more inefficient back during all those times. Suppliers largely looked at the retailer as a customer, not the consumer. So inventory problems, inefficiencies, I was trying to overstate the issues, but the industry was not in a great place. Growth was always expensive, and ultimately the consumer was always paying the price tag for that inefficiency. If we ordered too much, bad forecast, we just canceled the order, dumped it on the supplier, all that shows up some place. Fortunately, whether you want to call it serendipity or not, or when imports and cheap labor around the world really started driving imports, and imports were getting to compete with U.S. manufacturers and so forth, became somewhat of a crisis. That drove, if you will, retailers in particular to want to change that system. How do you compete? How do you make close proximity be an advantage again, et cetera? So, trade organizations, I'm trying to go fast, baby. Trade organizations never have been very effective, I don't care what industry, at driving radical change. So fortunately, Walmart, along with about 5 other companies, created an ad hoc effort, if you will, to come together, and that was Walmart, Kmart was part of it at the time, JCPenney's, Levi Strauss, a department store on the West Coast, Bullock's at that time. And we, if you will, looked at what was the problem. They created, they being this board, kind of a mission statement, and wound up appointing a technical committee to try and analyze and figure out what do we do. I had a chance to be fortunate to chair that committee because really Walmart. The slides or the PowerPoints you saw up there that said, if you don't draw the line we do, or the shortest distance between 2 points, that was really all about solving maybe one of the most, I guess if you will, inefficient problems between retailers and manufacturers was everybody marked product a different way. The vendor had to pay for all that. When you shipped product, there was no standard case symbology or whatever. So really fast forward. We went through, if you will, determining what would be a way to standardize product marking and case code symbology, wound up choosing universal product code. Few people know that that's really Walmart and a few others that really drove it in to make that happen. That absolutely transformed the retail and manufacturing industry. Here's why. It really now changed the focus away from the supplier thinking the retailer was the vendor, but everybody both realizing it was really the consumer. So now I'll try to answer it. And I've left out a whole lot, so I'll fill in the difference. What am I really, I guess, most proud of, or where I'm trying to campaign hard for breakthrough technology, was somewhat in the video. There was a slide in the PowerPoint, because I remember when Marla and I talked about it, that said, capture all you can, share all you know. I don't think industries do well living in silos. I don't think that data is data just for its sake. So I got on that campaign, even though the industry was doing electronic data interchange and sending information, avoiding mailing it in the mail. But truth of the matter was, I knew it that you may electronically send the purchase order, but when it got to the other end, they printed it out and still sent it to the key punch department. And so developing capability inside Walmart that really used all that extensive data, but took it out of our own buyers' hands and put it in the suppliers' hands. And all of a sudden, then, we totally radically changed how we forecasted inventory, what the customer demands were. When we bought too much and the buyer came to call on, or the vendor came to call on the buyer in Walmart, instead of us canceling inventory, they sat there and they worked out ways to take that excess commitment and turn it over to some other products we now knew were moving. That may or may not be making sense to you right now. I'll just say this. It went revolutionizing the way that business was done across the retailing industry. And it put the customers, if you will, more and more in control. The customer's voice. Now today, think about it today. We never would have thought about it. Customers having the level of power they do today to comparatively shop or whatever it may be. But those things really were born, out of that movement. Technology partners like IBM's and others that came along to help that happen. And I'm going to bring it back. Dillard Department Stores in 1972 embarked on giving the customer a loud voice when they very first started the point of sale business and beginning to look at data around sales and style and customer preference. Maybe you know what we called it back then? It started there, a little company out of Arkansas. A big company like a Walmart that influenced really the way the entire industry now operates. It's big. Did Amazon steal some of those ideas?
Absolutely.
And they built them. And that's good. At the end of the day, the customer is more charged, more powerful, if you will, than they've ever been. And I'm proud to have been a little bit part of that. You should be proud of the fact that it's Arkansas and more companies that have a lot to do with that.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to have a seat in the audience. I'm a little surprised.
No more videos.
It's a very short video. So I have this test for video. It's called the cry test. So we'll see if we can pull a tear out of Bobby here. But just in wrapping up, before the Chancellor comes up to bring you your award, and thank you so much, I just want to let you know that Bobby put me in touch with some remarkable people, including the guy who worked with Jeff Bezos to start Amazon.com, and he worked on the first Walmart.com website. So these are some individuals who I was able to speak with about the wisdom of Bobby and how he's passed that on to them, and just a couple of quotes from things they said.